The mansion was asleep when Emily slipped out the back door, her uniform replaced with a worn gray hoodie. The billionaire's maid had never drawn attention to herself, quiet, precise, invisible. But tonight, she moved with purpose. The motion sensors didn't catch her, she'd learned their rhythm over months of cleaning. Outside, the guard trailed her discreetly, phone in hand, recording every move. Mr. Knight, her boss, had ordered him to follow her after noticing how Emily often disappeared after her shift. What could a maid possibly be hiding? The guard's car lights stayed off as he watched her walk through the dark streets, turning corners that led far away from the city's wealth. She stopped in front of a crumbling building, a shelter, from the look of it. He followed her inside quietly. Emily knelt beside a group of children huddled on the floor, pulling bread and blankets from her bag. The guard froze, guilt creeping into his chest. She was feeding homeless kids with leftovers from the mansion, the same food the staff usually threw away. One little boy hugged her, whispering, "Thank you, Miss Emily." She smiled softly, brushing his hair aside. The next morning, Mr. Knight called his guard into the study. "Did she meet someone? Sell something?" he asked coldly. The guard hesitated, then handed him the phone. Mr. Knight watched the footage. Emily, surrounded by thin, shivering children, giving away her own jacket. His usual stone expression cracked for a moment. "She's been doing this every night?" he asked quietly. The guard nodded. For the first time, the billionaire didn't know what to say. He'd assumed she was stealing, maybe hiding a lover. But what she was hiding was kindness, something money had never taught him. That evening, Emily returned from her duties, unaware she'd been discovered. She froze when she saw him waiting at the back door. "Mr. Knight," she stammered. He didn't speak, just handed her a key. "There's a truck outside. It's full of food, clothes, medicine. You'll take it to them, and you'll have help." Emily blinked in disbelief. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. He looked away, his tone low. "Because I forgot what it meant to care." She realized then that the cold billionaire wasn't as heartless as everyone believed. And that night, two lives quietly changed forever. The mansion slept beneath a sky bruised with clouds, its tall windows glowing faintly in the moonlight. Emily's footsteps were soundless on the marble floor as she slipped down the back hallway, clutching a small canvas bag to her chest. Every shadow seemed to breathe, every ticking clock a threat. Her shift had ended hours ago, but she lingered, waiting for the guards to change shifts. She knew the exact minute they did. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled her hood over her head and eased the back door open. The cold night air hit her face, sharp and fresh. Behind her, the mansion loomed like a sleeping beast, rich, powerful, unaware. She glanced back once, eyes darting to the third-floor window where her boss, Alexander Knight, often worked late. Tonight, that window was dark. She exhaled softly and began to move. The path around the garden was familiar. She'd swept it every morning, dusted its lanterns, memorized its blind spots. The security lights blinked in timed patterns. 1, 2, pause, giving her just enough seconds to slip past each zone. She moved quickly, every motion practiced, every breath measured. Beneath her calm, her heart raced with a mixture of fear and determination. If she was caught, she'd lose everything. Halfway down the driveway, she heard a faint engine hum. Her stomach tightened. Somewhere behind her, hidden by the trees, a black SUV idled with its lights off. Emily didn't notice the silhouette inside, a man watching her through night vision binoculars, phone recording. Mr. Knight had given him strict orders: follow her. Find out where she goes. Don't let her see you. Emily turned down a narrow alley where the scent of damp earth and rust lingered. The streetlights here flickered weakly, casting long, broken shadows across the cracked pavement. Her steps slowed as she approached the end of the lane, an abandoned textile warehouse, its faded sign barely visible in the darkness. She knocked twice on a rusted metal door, then once more after a pause. A small face appeared through a gap. Recognition flashed in a pair of wide, tired eyes. The door creaked open. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of old wood, dust, and faint traces of smoke from a dying fire. The walls were lined with makeshift beds, piles of rags and torn blankets. A dozen children stirred when they saw her. "Miss Emily," a small voice called out, breaking into a smile. The tension in Emily's chest melted for a moment as she set her bag down. "Shish, not too loud," she whispered, her voice gentle. "You'll wake the little ones." From behind a stack of crates, a frail woman in her 50s emerged, wrapped in a patched shawl. "You came again, dear," she said softly. "You shouldn't risk it." Emily shook her head, unpacking the food. "They need it more than I need my job," she replied. She handed out the bread, still faintly warm from the mansion kitchen, and the fruit she'd carefully hidden away in her apron earlier that day. The guard watched through a grimy window from across the street, his camera still recording. At first, he thought she might be meeting a lover or making a secret deal, but what he saw instead made him lower the phone, stunned. Emily wasn't hiding greed, she was hiding kindness. Inside, Emily knelt beside a young boy with a scraped knee. "Didn't I tell you to stay off that pile of wood?" she teased lightly, cleaning his wound with a small cloth. He grinned, showing a missing front tooth. "I was helping Aunt May fix the roof," he said proudly. She smiled and ruffled his hair, then draped a blanket over his shoulders. For a while, laughter replaced the silence of the broken building. The guard watched as Emily handed her own jacket to a shivering girl who clung to her leg. Her eyes were tired, her hands cold, but there was warmth in every gesture. When she finally stood to leave, the children begged her to stay. "Tomorrow night," she promised, forcing a smile. The next morning, the mansion was bright and pristine, the kind of morning that demanded precision and routine. Alexander Knight sat behind his massive oak desk, the sunlight cutting across the papers scattered before him. His sharp suit and sharper gaze usually commanded obedience without question, but today there was a flicker of curiosity behind his stoic expression. He had called the guard in, expecting to hear a report of theft or some hidden scandal, anything that would explain Emily's mysterious disappearances. The guard entered, slightly uneasy, holding his phone like a shield. "Sir," he began, "I recorded her last night." Knight didn't speak, he simply gestured for him to continue. The guard pressed play, and the screen revealed what Emily had done, quietly, meticulously, lovingly. Bread in small hands, blankets wrapped around shivering shoulders, gentle smiles exchanged in the dim light of a broken-down shelter. Knight leaned back, arms crossed, his expression unreadable at first. "Every night?" he asked finally, his voice low and incredulous. The guard nodded. "Every night, sir. She sneaks out after her shift. Gives food, clothes, even her own things. It's not stealing or scheming. It's charity." Knight's fingers drummed on the desk. He had thought he understood people, thought money could measure worth or morality. But this quiet, selfless act, defied everything he assumed about the world. He replayed the video, watching Emily kneel beside children too small to be noticed by anyone else. Her hands were rough from work, her face tired, but her eyes sparkled with something he had long forgotten, empathy. For the first time in years, Knight felt a pang in his chest, a subtle awakening. He realized that for all his wealth, he had never truly seen someone like this before. Not really. Minutes passed, the office silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Knight finally straightened, his mind racing. He imagined confronting her, asking why, demanding explanations, but something inside stopped him. There was no need for interrogation. This wasn't deceit, it was courage, kindness, and sacrifice, all wrapped into a single, quiet figure. He looked at the guard, his usual sharp authority softened. "Arrange a truck," he said finally, almost to himself. "Fill it with food, clothes, medicine. Make sure it's ready tonight." The guard blinked, surprised. "For her?" Knight nodded, eyes distant. "She's been carrying a weight no one else notices. It's time we help her carry it." That evening, Emily returned to the mansion, tired from her shift but buoyed by the warmth of the children she had fed. She carried her usual quiet confidence, unaware that someone had watched her every move and that the man she served with polished smiles and cold precision now knew the truth of her secret. The back door creaked softly as she stepped inside, her mind already shifting to chores, laundry, and the delicate balance of keeping her two worlds separate. She froze when she saw him standing in the shadow of the doorway, Alexander Knight. His usual sharp expression was softened, almost hesitant, and his eyes were fixed on her. "Mr. Knight," she whispered, heart skipping. He didn't move, didn't smile, only extended a key toward her. The gesture was small, but it carried an unexpected weight. "There's a truck outside," he said, his voice low. "It's full of food, clothes, medicine. You'll take it to them, and you'll have help." Emily blinked, stunned. She stared at the key as if seeing it for the first time, her hands trembling slightly. Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Knight looked away, his jaw tight, his usual authority replaced by something unfamiliar. "Because I forgot what it meant to care," he said quietly. There was a pause, heavy with unspoken words. Emily felt a rush of emotion, disbelief, gratitude, and an unexpected sense of recognition that someone finally understood. She stepped outside to see a line of delivery trucks waiting, workers loading crates and bags with precision. Everything she had carried herself for months was now multiplied, ready to reach more children, more people in need, all without the fear of being caught or judged. Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time, she felt the burden she carried lighten. The city streets, once dark and lonely, seemed to glow with possibility. Knight watched silently as Emily climbed into one of the trucks, the children in the warehouse waiting anxiously for the night's deliveries. Something shifted in him as he realized that wealth could be more than power, more than influence, it could be a tool for kindness. Emily's courage and generosity had ignited something he hadn't expected, a desire to change the way he saw the world. As the trucks rolled into the night, Emily looked back once. Their eyes met, and she smiled, small but radiant, a smile that carried trust, hope, and understanding. Knight nodded subtly in return. Two lives had quietly changed forever. One through selfless devotion, the other through the awakening of a heart long thought hardened by wealth. The night air was still, but the city, in some small corner, felt lighter, warmer, and infinitely brighter.